All right, we're back. Thank you so much. Sorry about the delay there, y'all. Just again, one day it's gonna get all settled in. I'm still adjusting and getting things here there. But in the meantime, I'm gonna go ahead and put some music on and get people, get set and ready. This is from our latest album, called Go Solar, and we just gonna chill here for a moment. Is it playing on this? Let's see. Actually switch it. There we go. All right, this is again our latest album, Go Solar, and it's over on Sabatree.com. But remember, Sabatree.com, you still can save up to 30% off over at Sabatree.com. That's your herbs. We got we're 100% about health and wellness. Let me just say this too. Thank you so much for the response to the promos that we've been running over on Sabatree. We really appreciate it. We're a small business, but we're very committed to each and every one of our customers. So if there's a slight delay in getting your packages out, fear not, we're getting it out, okay? We're getting everything out. We're not going to take off and run with your money. That ain't us. We ain't about that. You can't run a successful business on that model, okay? So we ain't forget about you. We're right here and we're getting them out, okay? So I just wanted to let you know that. We got one more special that we're going to be running tomorrow. We've been every day in the week. We have been focusing on a particular product. We skipped today, but tomorrow we'll have one for you. So check your emails and we'll have that for you, okay? But let's give people a little bit of time to get on, and then we're going to start. We're going to have a very interesting conversation. We're going to continue where we left off from the last video. All right, well, let's give it about another 30 seconds, and then we're going to jump right in, y'all. It's not going to be, I know some of y'all be doing them double taps and say, okay, all right, this Sabatree stuff I already heard about. I just want to get to the main point. Don't worry, you ain't going to have to do that tonight. We're going to get right into it, okay? All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. And yeah, you're just listening to just a taste of our latest album that we got out here. You can see it right here. It's called Go Solar. And again, we are all committed here, to bringing peace into our homes, into our environments, creating an environment of peace. And so we came up with these songs, thanks to AI. And, I wanted a flavor that kind of reminds me of the 70s. All instrumental. There's one song on there that's not instrumental, but all instrumental. So if you're a 70s guy like me, or gal, I'm not a gal, but some of you guys are. But if you're a 70s person and you loved, those deep, soulful instrumentals from back in the day, this is the one to get. Okay, this is the one to get. So make sure you check this out. Y'all, listen, we ain't trying to break no bank on this at all. So I think this was $79. When I say 79, I mean $7.99. That's what I meant. Not $79. $7.99. And guess how many songs is on it? I think it's 21 or 22 songs are on it. So it's for the long haul. All right. So again, make sure you check that out. Go over and on sambatree.com. All right. All right. So we're going to get into it tonight. And we're going to continue on with the conversation that we've been having. Really, I do hope that you had the opportunity. If you didn't get a chance to watch the video that we did talking about, we started our journey looking at this stereotype of how Black people were equated to being apes. And we don't really, I don't think most of us take the time to actually process that. We just assume. Someone said, "Are you on Spotify?" No, I probably should be. But yeah, we don't really take the time to think about, we just assume. We've been programmed to just simply see black and white and think in colors, and that's it. That's how we've been programmed as Black folks. And so when we're talking about race and race relations and all of that, most of the time, that's how we think. We think white people and Black people. White people came up with this, and then we're the Black people and that kind of thing, right? But there's another group that we leave out of the conversation. And those people are the Jewish people. We leave them out of the conversation. Now, am I saying just like when I would say all white people are racist? No. Are all Jewish people racist? No. But if we're a people of truth, we have to be committed to that. And that means we need to tell the whole story. Did Jews participate in the civil rights movement in, pushing for rights or equal rights, if you will, for Black Americans? Yes. Did Jewish Americans, were there cases where they actually lost their lives? Yes, absolutely, during those times. Did Jewish Americans actually suffer discrimination during those times? Absolutely. See, I have no problem in telling that story because that is part of history. I have absolutely no problem in telling that story. But see, the story doesn't end there. Because another part of the story is many of those stores that were preventing us from sitting at those lunch counters were owned by Jewish people. The other part of the story is that when it comes to slavery and their and yes, white people, white Europeans or whatever, they participated in it, but they were also in that number as well. When it comes to many of the mayors who were during the Reconstruction era and on to Jim Crow era, there's an entire list of mayors where a good percentage of them were, in fact, Jewish. Same thing when it comes to the bankers that were rejecting us or redlining us. It's the same thing. So again, I don't have any problem in telling the whole story, and you can go straight to hell if you're going to sit here and try to tell us that there's only certain parts of the story that we can tell. Because we're not going to do that. We're going to tell the whole story. Why? Because we want our future generation to get the whole story so that they know how to course correct and how to build accurately. You understand what I'm saying? So we're going to tell the whole story here, like it or not. And as we've done before, we've done it again. We'll keep doing it. If this platform has a problem with it, that's fine. We'll build our own platform. We've done it before. So we don't, or we'll go on to a platform that will accept it, but we're going to tell the truth. All right. It's just plain and simple. So first of all, shout out to everybody that's in the chat. We got Alda, looks like Al Davis. I'm going to call you Alda. Al Davis, 5545. Good to see you. Willie Rivers always in the house. He always got his seat. And then we got Hayward McCullum, 2762 from Columbia, South Carolina. And then I'm sure there's many other of you that are here as well. So good to see you guys, and thank you so much for joining. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into it. We're going to start off again with this, because this has to be buried deep down in you. Okay. And this is Maimonides. Maimonides is the rabbi who's probably the most esteemed rabbi within Judaism. Maimonides, this is going back to the 12th century, Maimonides. And he is very esteemed. When you go through literature in Judaism, they have many books about him. They've written quite extensively about him. I even saw an artifact where they even have a coin with his face on it. So he is someone that they esteem very much. He's not just some random dude. I mean, this is a rabbi that they really, really esteem. And, when you look at the Talmud does talk about a lot of things. There's a lot of arguments. There's a lot of discussions. There's a bunch of things that's in the Talmud. The Talmud isn't just one book. It's a whole series of books. And these are conversations and discussions and all kinds of stuff from different rabbis through the years. But Maimonides holds a very special place within those books, the Talmud. And he has said a lot of things. And this one quote in particular is something that as a black person, a black American specifically, should take special note. And this is why I want to, as long as we're going to continue to talk about this topic, I'm going to continue to bring it up, because you're going to have to make sure that this is something that you always use as a reference when dealing with these individuals. Okay. So this is something he wrote, and in the section called Guide to the Perplexed, Book 3, Chapter 51. And let's read it again. Among these, those who have no religion, there is a group of people whose entire inner thought is given to the immediate satisfaction of their material wants and appetites, and they do not long for anything else. To them, men become like the dumb animals, or even lower, since the animals at least do not eat at the point of bursting, and they do not mate with every woman they see. I have already mentioned in the first part of this treatise that the inhabitants of the South have lustful and bestial natures. Let's make sure I could see it. Okay. Bestial natures. All right. Okay. Let's continue to follow. Who is he talking about? They have bodies which are hotter than the bodies of other people, because they are closer to the sun, whose rays reach them when it is near the zenith. This is the opinion of the physicians. Let me read that again. This is the opinion of the physicians. I don't think you heard me. Let me just read it again. This is the opinion of the physicians. And I would encourage you to read watch the video that we did prior to this one. Okay? Because the physicians have continued to carry this message. All right, the opinion of the physicians. And the inhabitants of the North are people with weak and cold natures, whose bodies are cold and their humors thick. The inhabitants of the South are the Negroes. What did I say? What did he say? The inhabitants of the South are the Negroes, and they have lustful and bestial natures, and their bodies are hotter than the bodies of all of other people. To my mind, they do not have the rank of men, but among the beings, a rank lower than the rank of a man, but higher than the rank of the apes. For they have the external shape and lineaments of a man and a faculty of discernment that is superior to that of the apes. And then I forgot to mention in the last video here, let me see if I can bring this up for you real quick here. Let me see. Now you're talking many. That was 12th century. Many years, hundreds and hundreds of years later, their top rabbi, I got to get rid of this here. Let's see if they'll continue this site. Okay, they got a block on it. That's all right. That was the times of Israel, but that's okay. We'll go here. Their top rabbi, Israeli rabbi under fire for calling black people monkeys. The chief rabbi of the Sephardic community used two slurs in his speech. Sephardic chief rabbi Yitzhak Yosef is the subject of sharp criticism today following his last week's sermon where he compared black people to monkeys as he explained the blessing of blooming trees during the Hebrew month of Nisan. It goes on. So this is their top rabbi. This is how, so from Maimonides to today, they still hold this belief. And don't tell me, if you're a Jewish person or a religious Jew, and say, hey, listen, that was just a one-off, that kind of thing. And, Maimonides said a whole bunch of other things too, and all of this stuff. Okay, fine. What he wrote was very offensive. Take it out of your Talmud. But of course, that won't happen, would it? You're not going to remove it. It's still in there. So all the apologies in the world, it doesn't erase. There hasn't been any physical erasure of that quote, what I just read, out of your Talmud. It's still there. So you can apologize all you want, but you still left it in there. And then we're literally talking thousands of years, not thousands, but hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years later. Here, your top rabbi is still saying the same stuff that Maimonides said. Okay? So it hasn't changed. Okay? So again, my encouragement to you, go back to the video that I did recently, the one before this one, and we got into some very interesting details. Okay? We went into some interesting details. I've done videos recently where I talked about when they mentioned the physicians. We went through several examples. I made a list. I think I even put it on our community page of Jewish doctors who experimented on black Americans. Made a whole list of them. I think it's Holmesburg prison in Philadelphia is one of them, where they literally were stripping skin off of black inmates. There was never an apology issued by that community. Instead, the apology came from the city of Philadelphia, who at that time, the mayor was John Street, who was a black man. So here you have a black man issuing an apology for something that a Jewish doctor did to black inmates. Make that make sense. Okay. So anyway, let's go ahead and continue. So in tonight's broadcast tonight, what we're going to do is that we're going to look at this even further. Now, for many of you, you remember back in the day, when I say back in the day, I'm talking about in the 90s. Remember in the 90s, there was this whole thing with talk shows. There was something else I wanted to mention before I get into this. Since I've already opened I tell you what, let me open this up real quick. And I'm just going to read it very quickly, y'all, very quickly. And then we're going to get into the main topic here. but I need to touch on this too because I need to make sure that you guys are keeping up with me. All right. So let me bring this up on the screen. It's going to be very quick. I promise you. Then we're going to get into the topic here. Okay. Everything is all related 100%. All right. Let me close out of that and let me bring this up here. Okay. There we go. All right. So real quick, this is something that I posted today. All right, I hope you take the time and look through it, okay? Then, like I said, I promise you we're going to get into the main thing. Today, let's look at two words very carefully, massacre versus Holocaust. Let's first look at the definition of the word massacre. The definition of a massacre is an indiscriminate and brutal slaughter of people. I think we can all agree with that. It's very clear, right? I said, throughout history, massive, brutal slaughters have almost always been defined as massacres. Here's a list of massacres that involved Black Americans. And then I proceed to list them. The Tulsa Race Massacre or the Tulsa Race Riots, the Okasee Massacre, the Elaine Massacre, the Memphis Massacre of 1866, the New Orleans Massacre of 1866, Carroll County Courthouse Massacre, and then there's been many others. But you see, there's a pattern here, all right? History and historians rightfully and accurately describe these events as a brutal slaughter of a people. Okay, I think we can all agree with that. There's no argument with that, right? People tend to call these things massacres. Like you have the Boston Massacre, for example, right? People tend to call those things, right? Now, let's take a look at the word Holocaust. The word has a much older history to it, but here is the definition and origin. The term Holocaust from the Greek holocauston, meaning a completely burnt offering to a god. I'm going to take time and I'll take all the time you need to process what I just said. The term Holocaust from the Greek holocauston, meaning a completely burnt offering to a god, was used long before World War II, originally referring to a sacrifice consumed by fire in ancient Greek and biblical context. And then I said, now this is interesting, isn't it? The Holocaust has been drilled in our heads through movies, documentaries, shows, lectures, state laws, lessons in schools, etc., as an indiscriminate and brutal slaughter of people, has it not? Black Americans have never, now I'm speaking of Black Americans here, but other groups that, like Native Americans and all that, they've had their massacres too. But I'm speaking as a Black American for Black Americans. Black Americans have never described our massacres as sacrifices to a god. However, it has been Jews who have forcefully described their massacre as a sacrifice to a god. Here's a bit more history. However, its modern use, referring to mass murder of Jews and other groups by Nazi Germany, emerged gradually after the war. So they weren't saying Holocaust during the war. This didn't come up until the 1940s, way after the war had ended. All right. In the 1940s and 50s, English language writers began using Holocaust with the lowercase h to describe the destruction caused by the Nazis. The term was popularized in the 1950s and 60s by Jewish writers, journalists, and historians to describe the genocide of 6 million Jews. It became widely capitalized, the Holocaust, after the release of the 1978 American TV miniseries Holocaust, starring Meryl Streep, which brought the term into mainstream global use. And then I said the word massacre would have been much more appropriate since this is how it's been taught to us. It was taught to us that this was a great massacre. But they specifically and intentionally called it a Holocaust, a sacrifice to a god. So the question before you is this: what God demanded human sacrifices? And then I'm just leaving it at that. Literally leaving it at that. So for the YouTube overseers, if you want to suggest, if you think that I'm denying the whole, nope, not denying anything. I'm just reading the words that you gave to us. And once someone takes the time and actually look at the words that you have put on us and how careful we have to talk about these things, we're being very careful and talking about it. We're looking at the words themselves. And everybody else in the world will refer to those events as a massacre. But why is it that you refer to that event as a sacrifice to a god? What God are you talking about? What God in that year referred to, and you're talking in the 20th century, what God demanded the sacrifice, a burnt sacrifice of human beings? What God are we referring to? I would like to know the answer to that. And let's not play semantics here with, well, that was the closest word. No, there's a lot of other words that you could have chosen. Massacre being one. And then later on, the part I didn't include here is that in later years, they started changing it from Holocaust to Shoah. Shoah. All right? Shoah. Look it up. Shoah. Shoah basically it's a Hebrew word that actually more refers to, it has a much closer definition to massacre than Holocaust. So this wasn't just a quick grab and, I can't think right now, let's just call it a Holocaust. No. Bernays, who was the founder or the father of marketing, he was also a Jewish person. He would have known this, what I'm telling you. So he's not going to, so everything was very intentional on why they called things the way they called them. So what God is it? Something to think about, isn't it? Because no black person has ever called our massacres anything else but that. They're massacres. I've never looked at any of these massive killings of black people throughout history as a sacrifice to a god. What God are you talking about? This is why we got to read, y'all. We got to read. We got to ask questions. We got to do these things. Anyway, let's move on. Okay, so tonight we're talking about these in the 90s. Okay, so prior to that, so in the 90s, we're in the 90s right now. There was a rise of talk shows. Now, some of you guys are, we're dating ourselves here, y'all. We're dating ourselves. How many of you guys remember the Phil Donahue show? What was Dinah Shore? Oh, we're getting old now, ain't we? Dinah Shore. Phil Donahue. And there's probably a couple more I'm missing. All right. So those were like talk shows back in the day, man. But then we got into the 90s. And in the 90s, they started to take a very interesting direction with these talk shows, because they weren't just regular talk shows. These were talk shows that now felt the need to push the envelope, so to speak. And they would have all kinds of things on there. I'm thinking a little bit because I'm trying to figure out, do I show you this clip first? Or I'm trying to figure out which clip to show you first. Okay, so I think I figured it out. So one of those guys that many of you guys would recognize, his name was Jerry Springer. Jerry Springer. Many of you remember his name, right? Well, Jerry Springer, he said something quite interesting. Someone actually put together this clip of interviews that he did in latter years of his life. And I'm going to put that on the screen, and we're going to just listen to him. Let's take a listen to old Jerry here, because he's going to give some insight here on why he did what he did. Let's go back, hit play, Let's listen to old Jerry.
Politics is my religion. It's not my only, I'm Jewish, but I mean, it's like a religion to me. I am the father of the destruction of Western civilization. I have done that. But frankly,
the admission right here on HuffPost Live from
been
Mr. Jerry
around for a
Springer.
couple of thousand years. I think we got to give Eastern civilization a shot. You know, we've done it. Well, yeah, I'm proud of my show. Why wouldn't I be? I apologize. I've ruined the culture. I just hope hell isn't that hot, because I burn real easy. I'm very light complected. So it's I'm very lucky. You know, I happen to make my living in front of a lot of people, and people treat me beautifully, and I get paid handsomely, and you know, I've been lucky enough to have the #1 show in America. I mean, gosh, this is a gift from God. This is a gift from God. Certainly, with American TV was always upper middle class white, and everyone on television, whether even the sitcoms, reflected upper middle class white living. And then our show came along, and it really was the first time we saw another slice of the people that make up a country. Pretty much before we started, American television was all upper class white, upper middle class white people. Let's stop the hypocrisy and just be honest about what the media does, what its role is, and recognize, which is the good news, that we are not deteriorating as a society.
Okay. Now, I just want to bring to your, just remember here that many Jews do not see themselves as white. And the ones that appear white, they don't necessarily, they will tell you that Jews come in all colors and many colors. And they're right with that. You know, they're right with that. There are people who are Jewish who are, you know, you have Ethiopians, right? You have people who are Somalian. You have people like that. And then you have other groups too that have come in. And I did a video a while back where we talked about the long ancient history of Jews in China. Yes, you have Jews that migrated many centuries ago in China, and they're still there. And there are certain Chinese last names that originally they were not Chinese names. These were actually Jewish families that went there, and when they got to China, they were given new last names. And one day what I'll do is I'll take the time and actually show you, like, if you hear this name and this Chinese name, this means it's actually a Jewish name. I could do that for you. So one day maybe I'll do that for you if I get some time, and I'll put it in the community page. But you will find Jews pretty much everywhere, right? And, you know, that's their history. But one thing that they have said on repeat, and let me see if I actually have a video clip on this. I'm not sure, but they have made very clear that their enemy, if you will, is Esau. And Esau to them is white people. They have said this. There are many, there are many rabbis that you will find here on social media that will proudly say, "Hey, we really are trying to tear down Esau," and Esau to them are white people. Now, I hope you guys are tracking with me, because who else says that Esau are white people? Hebrew Israelites. And you remember what I said in the last video, Hebrew Israelites are the street muscle of Judaism. So they're just simply are repeating what these people are saying. The only thing is Hebrew Israelites don't have any power. They're just the foot soldiers for Judaism. Okay, so I found a video here that you can check out here. This is one here where the guy is it's kind of talking about this, and make sure this is the right. Oh, yep. Here's one here. Let me just play this one.
Who commits most violent murders on primetime TV and on gangster or movies? Not the people who actually commit violent crime in America. It's all businessmen, white business professionals commit all the crimes. And when one speaks, as I have done, to some of the Hollywood producers involved in this rubbish, they say, yeah, because they're the only group that has no defense league.
Did you hear that? I want to make sure he's not going too fast for you. Listen to what he said again. Let me go halfway and let me play that part again.
Professionals commit all the crimes. And when one speaks, as I have done, to some of the Hollywood producers involved in this rubbish, they say, yeah, because they're the only group that has no defense league. Anyone else will be on us if we make them the bad guys.
Y'all finding out tonight, aren't you? I bet y'all ain't never seen any of this stuff, huh? I told you, you just go right to them and they'll tell you. They'll tell you. He said the reason why we always make white people the villains in this is because they don't have a defense league. Everybody else got a defense league. Well, black folks kind of sort of had one, but Hollywood still just kind of roughshod over that. But yeah, and also how Hollywood always portrayed Italians as being somehow hooked to the mob. But the reality is that most mobsters, the most deadly mobs were Jewish mobs. Did you know that? The most deadliest, most dangerous mobs back in the day, and even to a certain point today, were Jewish mobs. It wasn't Italian mobs. Italian mobs were just a small part of it. We wouldn't have Vegas if it wasn't for Jewish mobs. I'm just trying to catch some of y'all up. In fact, there's a book that one day we'll probably delve into that I came across. I've heard about this book in the past, but I'll get into it one time, maybe at some point in the future. It's called The Jewish Pirates of the Caribbean. The Jewish Pirates of the Caribbean. Do you know that a hefty percentage of the pirates that were all throughout the Caribbean were Jewish? Did you know that? It's amazing the stuff that gets left out. Oh, you're beating up on them. No, I'm telling the truth. I'm just simply, and I will be, when I do that video, I'm going to be quoting directly from their sources. Don't worry. No, there's no name calling need to be made. There's none of that, nothing derogatory, like just ignorant stuff. We don't do that here. I'm just going to stick right to your sources. And I'm going to read word for word, letter from letter for what you guys wrote. And I'm just going to repeat it. That's all I'm going to do. Anyway, here's another rabbi here who's saying something similar here. This is all related here to our topic. And let's take a listen to him.
When Rome is built, Jerusalem can never be built. And when Jerusalem is built, Rome can never be built. So far that there is Rome and there is the Western world, the kingdom of God cannot stand. The temple cannot be built. So what has to happen before the temple is built? Worldwide destruction and all the tentacles of that beast that are all over the place. Okay. In the end of days, God is going to completely clean house, and all the idolatry and the idol worshippers will be completely removed from existence. When that time comes, and if you are not properly prepared, you're gone. There is no more of you. There's no opportunity to do tshuva because that time has been done.
Now, how many Hebrew Israelites that are out here, on the regular, on social media, always, pining for the day that Rome and Babylon is destroyed? They're just simply repeating what Judaism has been teaching for a very long time. And I got many other videos I can play. But their war has always been against whiteness. That's what their war has been against. And so in order to wage a war, there's all kinds of ways you can do it. But one of the ways you can do it is to raise up an army to do the fighting for you. And there's going to be other things I'm going to say later on in this video. So I hope you do stick around, because there's another thing, because I want to speak on this Muslim thing that's happening right now. That's something that's very important. I'm going to mention that. Okay. So I hope you stick around. We'll get into that a little bit later. Okay. Because there is something to that. But getting to these talk shows, what I did was, like what most of you should be able to do as well, I went to ChatGPT. I said, list me out all the talk show hosts, the big talk show hosts of the 90s. And it gave me a big list. And then I said, okay, I want you to filter it and list out all the ones that were Jewish. And it did it. And so I remember all of these folks. Let me see. So I'll just read the names to you, and then I'm going to show you some clips. For those of you who are probably a little bit too young to remember this, but you know, I already mentioned Jerry Springer is one. Maury Povich, he's another one. Sally Jesse Raphael, someone mentioned her. Geraldo Rivera, did you know he was Jewish? Yeah, he is Jewish. His one parent is Puerto Rican, and the other parent is Jewish. And then the Richard Bay Show. Some of y'all may remember that. You know, some may not, but when you see the guy's name, you will remember him. Okay. So anyway, let me just pull up some of the clips so you guys can see for yourself what these individuals were serving up in the 90s. I'm just gonna show different clips here. Okay. Just to catch you up.
Wait up. I had it all wrong.
We even got a little anthem that we sing. It's a little Bible that we sing. Y'all want to hear it?
Yeah.
You want me to teach you something?
Yeah, I want to do it. Yeah, put this down here, right here.
Let me get on this side. Come on. You ready?
Yeah.
One, two. Who wait up? I wait up. She wait up. We all wait up. Wait up. Wait up in the building.
Okay.
My feelings. I care about my feelings first. I come first. Cause get at her. Don't touch our security. Get at her. Whoop on head.
Okay, so that was Jerry Springer. And here's Geraldo Rivera. Some of y'all may remember this one. Geraldo Rivera, he used to have all kinds of stuff. What they loved to do was to pit different groups against each other. Now remember, keep in mind what Jerry Springer said in those clips there. Single-handedly destroying Western culture. Okay, so Geraldo Rivera would follow suit, and he was doing the same kind of stuff. And some of y'all remember this one.
Our focus, young hate mongers. Let's take some audience questions.
I was curious. They're awfully young. They are very media slick. They know how to bait, and they use words that they've been trained in. I also am not that upset. What my question is, I think that they're quite ignorant. I'd like to know their education.
Think you're ignorant. Take your materialistic
What's your
attitude and
what's your
go back to
educational
home
background?
and lock
guys?
it up.
Did you finish high school?
Materialism
Or?
isn't going to do anything for
What's your education? Let's start with you.
Went through high school. I had a working background. I worked all through high school. 7 years of baseball, 2 years All-Star.
So they would always when they would get white people on there, they would always find like the worst of the worst. So they got John Metzger. Now that's interesting. John Metzger. I just caught that. Do you guys mind if I kind of get off here a little bit? Let's look up John Metzger for a second. Let's look up Mr. John Metzger here. Now that name really rings a bell here. John Metzger. That name really rings a bell. Let's see. John Metzger, supremacist. Sorry, y'all, I'm just looking this up. Did they say John Metzger or they say Tom Metzger? Anyway, yes, he was Jewish. Okay. So you got a Jewish person playing a white man, playing a racist white man. And they would do this. ADL would do this often, and we could get into that. That's a whole nother thing. But let me go ahead and play. John Metzger. He is the director of the White Aryan Resistance Youth.
Came from a good family. I'm an electrician.
What's your educational background, Bob?
I took the GED and got out when I was 14.
Okay, Michael, what's your education?
I graduated from high school and I'm a layout and design artist.
A land design artist?
Layout and design.
Layout and design.
And an ex-con.
Are you an ex-con also?
Not an ex-con. Are you out of your mind?
Yes, you are, Michael. Why'd you tell him the truth?
Hey, I got no convictions, man.
I have to go to court tomorrow. That's true, but I'm not an ex-con, and I don't.
What are you charged?
You could take a drug test, and you wouldn't see any needle.
What are you charged with?
Oh, drugs have nothing to do with it. Only
what are you charged with?
I'm not an ex-con.
Rabbi, what's he charged?
If I have my resume here, it won't say I'm an ex-con.
I was thrown out. He was arrested for a felony.
A felony. Wait, hold it. Here we are. Question.
He reportedly served time for felony.
I'd like to know if you're so.
You wouldn't remember anyway.
If you have true belief in your convictions and your movement is as good and as powerful as you say it is, why are you afraid to let other people speak? Why are you not like other minorities and allow other people to pursue whatever happiness they find in whatever religion they find, whatever color they happen to be? You don't let anybody answer a question, and if you don't have...
Okay, so you get it. Let me just... Okay, so here you go. So this is the part I want to get to.
Sick and tired of seeing Uncle Tom here sucking up, trying to be a white
Go ahead, Roy, go ahead.
What are you afraid of?
The reason why I do that is because I get sick and tired of hearing the sob stories from kikes. I get sick and tired of seeing Uncle Tom here sucking up, trying to be a white...
Go ahead, Roy, go ahead.
Now, let me tell you.
Sit down.
Hey, you gotta be kidding. You gotta be kidding. You gotta be kidding. Hey, hold it. Hold it. Sit down.
So this is the kind of stuff. So that was so when you see Geraldo Rivera on Fox News and all this stuff, this is how he cut his teeth. This is how he really got into the mainstream, by doing this kind of stuff, featuring black people, the worst of the worst of black people, the worst of the worst of white people. Okay. Now Sally Jesse Raphael, she, to my knowledge, I never, let me just start off saying this. I despise these shows during these days. I never watched any of these shows. I couldn't stand them. I could not stand any of these shows. But what really stuck out to me, even during those days, was the amount of black folks who were addicted to these shows. I have to tell the truth. Like I said, again, it's just like with anybody else. I'm going to tell the whole story here, okay? I'm going to tell you the whole story. As someone who lived during those days, black folks, not all, but many black folks pushed these shows into the prominence that they were in the 90s. Okay. And Sally Jesse Raphael, she used to have a little bit of everybody, on there. So she didn't really focus too much on black folks, but she would have black folks on there too with these little crazy stories like this one here. I'm pregnant and he dumped me.
Relationship with Lamont before you got pregnant?
I mean, at first everything was fine. We had a perfect relationship, I thought. I mean, we went places, did things, and everything was all lovey-dovey, and until I got pregnant. I mean, I really loved him, and he loved me. We was young, I fell in love with him, and I thought everything was going fine. I thought we was going to be together for a while.
And
then I got pregnant.
Tarina, 1 year ago, Lamont cheated on you and got another girl pregnant, and she has had a baby. Yeah. Everything is not perfect, Tarina. Pardon me. Did you know about that other?
Yeah, I did.
You forgot it?
No, I didn't forget it.
Well, I just said 2,000,004. It's now 2,000,005. Right? When you have problems, do you go back to your mother, or do you stay there and work the problems out?
I'm trying to find
But that's not happening. Why not?
I just couldn't take it no more. We were arguing all the time. We were fighting all the time. You know, just.
Oh, wait a minute.
Do you think you two can have a future together?
I mean,
I think no one's lost.
That's not her.
well,
I think they got to wake up.
yeah, he's like, you're letting confusion run your life.
All right, that's her right
You
there.
really said something very smart. Now, between the people on this stage, there are 8 children.
Okay, so yeah, so that's Sally Jesse Raphael. I was trying to scroll to the part where, you know, you can actually see her. Okay, so you guys, you know, I'm sure you've seen the memes of this. This is Maury Povich. Maury Povich. Take a look.
First of all, she need to be quiet. She don't know what she's talking about.
Everybody, wait a second. This has been a very serious drama, okay? Really? And Colin recognizes that.
Right. Get the result. Get the result. Let's get this going. Let's get this going. Hey, yo, all y'all gonna feel crazy. Hey, yo, hold on. Hey, yo, this is what I want.
Okay, when it comes to 2-year-old AJ, Colin, you are not.
So Maury Povich and his show, let me just get out of here for a second. You know, again, I'm just speaking for those who, you know, the younger crowd who may not remember the show. Maury Povich, he was doing regular talk show, and it was still somewhat of a talk show, but he would do this thing. I remember when he started doing these segments where, you know, who is the father and all that stuff. So what they would do is they would bring in, you know, a woman, and she would just be talking about these relationships she had with multiple men. And then they would have the men all line up on the stage or whatever. And then they would do a DNA test. And then in the DNA test, he would say, so-and-so, you are not the father, that kind. And they would get up there and literally do a whole jig. They would literally do a whole jig on stage, and they would have them running in the background on stage and all this other stuff. The producers would encourage them. Yeah, just ape it up, ape it up, ape it up. Yep, keep doing that. Maimonides, telling, yep, just keep aping it up. Keep doing that. Keep gorillifying yourself. And that's exactly what they were doing. And they were promoting this stuff. And these are top shows in the 90s. These were top shows that were being fueled not just by black folks, but also white people too. And what it was doing was it was pushing out this narrative that all black people were like this. And going back to what Jerry Springer said earlier was that he wanted to basically to tear down Western culture. And who did he use as his weapon? Black people. Now, as a black person, and I'm sure I got many black folks in the audience tonight, you know as well as I know that wasn't a full representation of black culture. It was not. Okay, I could tell you that all black folks were not acting like that. Okay, but what they did was, just like in the music industry, they highlighted a segment, the worst of black culture, and they put it on the forefront, and they made that the standard. Just like in our music, we talked about that as well. Hip hop music started off as just fun, happy, you know, party music. But then that wasn't good enough, because once these black artists wanted to get to the big time, they saw who they had to go through. And the people that they had to go through said, if you want to get up to these levels, you're going to have to start singing about, you know, derogatory things about black women. You're going to have to start sexing it up. You're going to have to talk about how much you hate other black male rappers and all of that, and how much you want to kill them. You're going to have to start saying all of these things, and then we're going to promote you. And that's exactly what happened. But that was not a full representation of black culture, and that's what they did. And so with Jerry Springer and these different hosts, this is exactly what they did. This is exactly what they did. They were promoting this stuff. And like I said, the sad thing, as someone who lived during that time, I can tell you that there were numbers of black folks who faithfully watched these shows. It was a spectacle. It was a very sad time, if anything. And then here's one last one here. This is the Richard Bey show, another Jewish individual here. And let me bring that up. Just a short clip.
Because it has been sucked into the mainstream already. That's why it's here to stay. Revolutionary things never stay around for long. Things that truly attack society and are revolutionary.
He's raking in a lot of money, but you're not asking that same question about George Armani. You're probably wearing his jacket now. Yeah. But you're not saying the same thing about that. Yeah, I am. You're making it over our money. Way more than it's the same thing as Timberland.
So I can't have here what they're saying, but the title of the show is Hood Chicks versus Conservative Women. So this is the kind of stuff that they would promote. These Jewish individuals, this is what they promoted during this time. And what that did was it built on this whole narrative that started all the way back with Maimonides and seeing these people, the people from the South, the Negroes, as a group of people that were oversexed, people that basically they were just little bit, their mindset, their mentality is lower than that of the average man, but a little bit higher than that of an ape. And this is exactly what they promoted. These Jewish people, this is what they promoted. So when I hear Jewish people say how we're the same, the hell with you. The hell with you with that. Because you literally took our culture and you bastardized it. And what I'm pointing out is receipt after receipt after receipt after receipt and showing you examples of exactly what you did. And it's high time we start bringing these things out and start openly discussing it as we're doing right now. It makes you mad when you think about it, don't it? And how they did that. And so, yeah, I remember that era very clearly. And what that did, it set the tone for so many other things. And so a lot of times people, I mean, there's a lot of criticism that we can give to Bob Johnson, BET, and all of that. Trust me. I mean, there's enough to go around with decisions that he made on there. But I do have to at least give him some credit for trying to come up with something that was going against this. With on BET coming out with all these different family shows and different, he had news shows. He had one called Teen Summit. You remember that? That was for the teenagers and all this other stuff. He was at least trying with what the resources that he had. Now he's just like, whatever. But, you got to give credit to where credit is due. He was at least trying, but it just was too much. It became too much. He unfortunately had to give in to the whole, gangster rap and all of that stuff. And then you saw BET went straight to hell after that. But I wanted to bring this out so that we can begin to start, as a people, begin to start looking at these people here. Because what I'm trying to do is get you to look beyond just talking about, it's white people, white people, white people. No, you need to be analytical. You have a brain in your head and one of its main functions is to be analytical, which means basically you're looking at things in fine detail. And again, am I saying hate all Jewish people? No, I'm not saying that, nor am I advocating that. But what I am advocating is telling the absolute, unadulterated truth when we're talking about history. And we need to make sure we're bringing these things up as well. So as you can see, going back to our first video, what we talked about in our first, just a quick recap, we talked about Maimonides and how we were basically, equated to being apes and all of that. Then we took you through Hollywood and I showed you a clip from their resources where they proudly talked about how they controlled the entire narrative, even built Hollywood. They take great pride in that. And so I said, okay, take great credit in that. Okay, fine. But one of the things in forms of entertainment that came out of Hollywood was making fun and depicting black people as beasts and as animals and all that kind of stuff. Then we talked about the history of the King Kong. We talked about King Kong, where that came from. Had black people worshiping monkeys, a great ape. I can't think of any religion in African spirituality in the whole spectrum where Africans of any culture worshiping an ape. I've never heard of that. But yet they made a movie about that, right? So we talked about that. Then we took you to Planet of the Apes, where we talked about the series of and of itself. Even though the people who wrote Planet of the Apes were not Jewish, the people who financed it and distributed it were. The one thing I forgot to mention yesterday or the other day when I mentioned that, when I was talking about that in that segment, was that Planet of the Apes, you got to keep in mind during that time. I mean, if you look at Planet of the Apes back then, the original, I mean, if you look at all the makeup and the prosthetics and all that, I mean, you laugh at it, right? It's like, man, that's lame. But you got to understand that was a lot of breakthrough at that time for film during that time to be able to pull something off like that. And so, and they had the whole narrative and all that. And what we talked about with Planet of the Apes is the entire series is based off of the Black civil rights movement. The entire Planet of the Apes series is based off of the Black civil rights movement. They even they even kind of highlight a Malcolm X figure, and they also portray a Martin Luther King figure and all of this stuff. They literally, the entire Planet of the Apes series, I don't care if you go to the old one or the new one, it is a reflection of the Black civil rights movement. And also, I'll go even further in saying this, it was supposedly a lesson that Hollywood was trying to teach white America and saying, you better be careful on how you treat these Black people. That's basically, when you watch the documentary and read some of the things, the commentary on it, that's what they were saying. That's originally what it was about. But I would go even further and say it was probably, it seems to me, it was more of a call out to even Jewish people saying, listen, keep these apes ignorant because one day they may take over. You understand what I'm saying? So I see that in that as well. So anyway, so we talked about that. We talked Planet of the Apes and what that was and all of that. Then we talked about a few other things. And I think we fast forward and we talked about something else. I can't recall right now, but I would highly recommend you go and watch that video. And then you got this one here as well. Okay. So we got that video. We just did this one. Okay. So let me see what else was there to this that I want you to keep in mind. But yeah, the purpose of me doing this again is we are in an era right now where things are being revealed. Things are unfolding. I'm watching too many Black folks. Did you see the clip of, what's the guy named Shannon Sharp and the other guy that he has on his podcast? He just mentioned something. He was saying, basically saying, why is it acceptable to talk about Black folks and use these derogatory words for Black folks, but there's one group of people you can't say anything about. And then they said a few things, and it wasn't nothing derogatory at all. But I saw all on X, people were getting hot. How dare they say, you too? Oh, they're anti-Semitic and all this stuff. And it's like they made it to where Black folks are so afraid to say anything about this group of people. But I will tell you this, no, it is time for us to tell the truth about it. You want to know why Black folks tend to be very afraid to tell the truth about this openly? It's because even when you go back into the civil rights movement, much of the civil rights movement was basically crafted by these people. The I Have a Dream speech was not a Black speech. Did you know that? It was not a speech written by a Black man. It was actually written by a Jewish man. So the dream that Black people have been aspiring for was not a Black dream. It was a Jewish dream. I'm going to pause on that and let you think on that for a moment. The I Have a Dream speech was not a speech written by Martin Luther King. It was not written by a Black person. It was written by a Jewish person. So the dream that Black people have been pining for all of this time was one that was crafted by a Jewish individual. This is why when you look at the Civil Rights Bill, you will not even see the word Black mentioned in it. Now, will you? Come on now, it's time to catch up. It's time to wake up, y'all. It's time to catch up. We don't have time for you're going to have to come on. You're going to have to come on. That was never our dream. It never was. I want you, and my challenge to you to give you homework, I want you to look through the I Have a Dream speech. There's some things in there that's like, oh, that sounds good and all of that, but that was not my dream. No. Nope. Sounds good, but what did it give us? Okay, so something to think. These are things to think about here. And then when you talk about the civil rights movement, there was numbers of black folks who signed a petition that they were pro-Zionist, including people like Rosa Parks, Coretta Scott King. There's many of these individuals that from the jump, they signed up to be pro-Zionist. It was some kind of like decree. These individuals, you got to know these individuals, these chosen people, they always want you to sign a decree that you're going to stand with them. It's very interesting. In fact, now as I'm speaking in Tel Aviv, they got a conference going on right now, over 1,000 pastors, mostly American pastors. And they are calling them to sign some type of declaration that they're going to stand with Israel no matter what. And I've seen it. You got black pastors, you got white pastors and all that. They're just so giddy that they've been invited on a trip. But they're calling them to sign these, whatever it is, declarations that they are going to stand for Israel no matter what. Better catch up, y'all. Better wake up. And so anyway, so civil rights movement, and you guys know about Coretta Scott King, Rosa Parks. Rosa Parks wasn't the original. There was actually a darker skinned young black lady, young black girl, 15-year-old black girl. She was the original one. She was the original who legitimately went on the bus and was like, I'm not moving. And so the people who basically, the NAACP, which was also had a significant number of Jews on the board, they said, okay, that's interesting, but I don't think we want to use you. Let's go with the lighter skin, not Coretta Scott, Rosa Parks. Let's go with her because the 15-year-old, she was dark skinned, number one, and number two, she was pregnant. She was pregnant during that time. And they said, that probably won't be a good look. So let's go with that. And we're going to set it up again. We're going to set something up and make it seem like, it was all an act. It was all like a stage. Everything was staged. Even that image of Rosa Parks sitting there, and then it's like a white guy behind her, and like he's not going to move and she's not going to move. The white guy behind her is actually, I believe it was like one of their lawyers for the NAACP. That wasn't some random passenger. The world's a stage, y'all. Wake up. And so even to this day, a lot of these politicians, black politicians, they basically know how to bark real loud, make a lot of noise, but at the end of the day, they don't do anything for black folks, just exactly how it's designed. Jasmine Crockett, she can do all that stuff, but you see her shaking hands with, the people that got the power. You see her doing that. We're going to have to start calling this out for what it is. Why? Because it's this force that has been a destructive force to black American culture. And it even goes to your religion as well. All right, but I'm not going to go there tonight. Anyway, so what I'm going to do now, give me 2 minutes, and I will say give you 2 minutes because I want you to process what I said here. And then I'm going to share some final thoughts on something, else that's been on my mind regarding this influx of Muslims that have been coming to this country. And then I'm going to take you through the land of some speculation on what I think is happening and what's going to happen. So let's go ahead and do that. Like I said, just give me 2 minutes, give you 2 minutes to kind of process that. And then and then we're going to go ahead and continue. This second part will not be that long, okay, because I'm looking at my time, so it will not be long at all. All right, we're going to go ahead and continue, y'all. I'm sensitive for time and all of that. I'm just going to go ahead and, because this will not take long at all. I just want to get right into it. Okay, so anyway, it's very interesting. I want to get into this thing. If you've been noticing, there has been a huge influx of Muslims coming into this country, and you're already seeing how the battle lines are being drawn. As it pertains to, you got the conservatives that are saying that this is, these Muslims don't belong here, and all of them are, here to basically to destroy our way of life and all of this stuff. And all of these Muslims, they're coming over here with a bomb and strapped on their back, and all Muslims this, that, or whatever. And that is on one side of the coin, that's what we're seeing. Whereas on the other side of the coin, we're seeing that, people are, just like whatever, America shouldn't have any borders at all. Let everybody in, And for me personally, my thought is with any country, there should be a legalized immigration process. I don't think that anybody, just like if I go to Mexico, I don't expect to be treated as a citizen if I'm not. There's got to be a process that I go through if I want to become a citizen. I don't expect Mexico to give me free education and free food and free housing and all that other stuff. That would be kind of dumb for me to expect that, because that's not my country, right? Or any other place. So America shouldn't be portrayed as that as either. All countries got their own rules, and I think you should abide by them. But when it comes to Muslims, however, yes, they have definitely, especially in recent years, we have seen a huge influx of them coming into this country. Now, Muslims, you have some, just like all cultures, you're going to have some parts of that culture that's going to have practices that do not agree with, and I'm saying, I would say even civilized values. And the reason why I say that, again, this is not all Muslims. And the reason why I say civilized, in other words, what's uncivil is treating women as second-class citizens. What's uncivil is if you catch your daughter dating someone who's not a Muslim, then you think you have some kind of right given to you by Allah that you can kill her. That's not civil. You know what I mean? Does that reflect the values of all Muslims? No, but there are some that out there that do believe that. You know what I mean? So no, I don't believe that. And for me personally, my own experience with Muslims and interactions, they've all been fair. They've been nice. I haven't had any. I can't point to anyone in particular where I could say, these Muslims are this or that or whatever. I've had. We've worked with Muslims in the past, have really good relationships as far as working is concerned. I've had associates or whatever that were Muslim. That was fine. I mean, We knew what lines not to cross with each other, and we just keep it right on moving. We respect one another and then keep it right on moving. So I don't have any issues when it comes to Muslims at all. On a personal level, I don't. Okay, except those things that I just mentioned to you. But like Western culture, what it does, it will always highlight the worst of any culture and will blow it up and villainize people. Some time ago, we actually looked at the organizations. I did a whole video on this. We looked at the organizations, not just here in the United States, but also in countries all throughout Europe. These leading organizations that are spearheading these open border policies. And surprise, surprise, guess who's leading most of these organizations? The same people we've been talking about in this entire video. Okay, we did a whole video on that. I can't remember the name of it right now, but you can look it up. We brought all the receipts on it. I've showed video clips on it. They feel like this is their mandate to do this because they say their argument is that, just like we had a hard time in getting to all these other hundreds of countries we were thrown out of, we want to be able to help all these other people to get into these countries. Meanwhile, in Israel, they have one of the most stiffest immigration policies ever. You can't just walk in Israel and say, I'm going to become a citizen. Oh, no, honey, you're going to have to go through a whole lot, right? Let alone call yourself a Jewish person. I mean, no, you just can't walk in Israel. And then, of course, they have their own policies with, even though they do have interracial marriages that go there, it's not really something that they really promote over there. Not really. And so Israel they're a lot tighter when it comes to that kind of ideology, right? But in these other countries, they're like, yeah, we need to promote policies to push these people. And even in the southern border here in the United States, there are I don't know if you knew this or not, Israeli organizations that are promoting. They have a whole network where they are getting these people coming from past these countries beyond our southern border and helping them to come into here in the United States. Yeah. And someone did an expose on this. I think it was like Project Veritas or something like that. So anyway, I'm sitting back and I was like, now this is very interesting, because I was looking at, like, for example, the governor of Texas. Now, Texas is about as red of a state as I don't know what politically. Everybody knows that is a deep, deep red. It's changing in some pockets, but for the most part, a very deep, deep red state in the union. And what was what's his name? Governor Abbott, if I'm not mistaken. What's very interesting about this governor, because he's a Republican, what's very interesting is that on one hand, he is leading, he's one of the leading governors in the United States pushing these anti-BDS laws. What does that mean? That's basically laws that are like, if you are a business, like I got my man in here, Coach in the house, and he has his business. If he was to get on social media and said, hey, I have some issues. I mean, he was critical of Israel. And let's say, for example, he had contracts with the state. If he's openly criticizing Israel and he has contracts with the state with these laws can literally cut off all your funding, period. You're done. They can literally do that with these anti-BDS laws. And Texas is one of the leading states in America that's leading the way with this. And this is under a Republican governor. Now, on the flip, this same Republican governor is also pushing for this. It's a town. It's a whole city that they're trying to establish. These Muslims are trying to establish, and they're trying to establish with Sharia law in Texas. So it's very interesting. It's like, okay, you got this one Republican governor, very pro-Zionist, but also he's pushing these Muslims to have, two opposite sides of the spectrum. It's very interesting. And then I started thinking about in New York City, where they just elected their first Muslim mayor, which this guy came out of left field. But I thought it was very interesting. But what's also interesting about this is that how this guy, the only reason why he won Maimonides, I hope I'm saying his name right. The reason why he won is because he had a strong support from the Jewish community. He had very strong support from the Jewish community in New York City. Did you know that? Now, then you got these other Jews that are coming out and saying that, New York is dangerous for Jewish people. But I've shown videos where he's sitting down with rabbis and everything else. They patting on the back and saying, yeah, this is our guy and we're going to vote for him. Vote for this man in droves. They will vote for this man in droves. But yet they're saying over in Israel how dangerous he is to the Jewish people. So they got him up there. They got this man into office. So, and then you got what's going on in Minnesota. You know, you got your pockets of Muslims over there, up there, and all that kind of stuff, right? But the United States, even under Trump, it seems like they're just pushing them in. So I'm sitting back here, and, you know, I'm just got my mental calculator here. And if I had more time, I would actually show you. There are clips that I have of various Laura Loomer, she's one. She's a Jewish commentator out here, but there's many others who have been out here dropping these tweets and video clips saying, remember, God said he will bless those that will bless thee, but he's also going to curse those that curse thee. America doesn't want to pull its support from Israel because something bad might happen. And I'm saying there have been several people that have been dropping that and saying it over and over again, like, you better be careful. You better be careful because one day it may all come down. Remember, there's a lot of cells, you know, like sleeper cells in America. At any given time, something might happen. So they've been saying this stuff, and I'm like, okay, so let me put all this together. And so I'm sitting here thinking, I'm saying, you know, let's just say what if. And then I remembered this movie, The Citadel. It was with Denzel Washington and Bruce Willis. I don't know. Y'all can go back and look it up. It's called The Citadel. It's very interesting. Basically, I think it takes place in New York, where it was this Muslim scare that took place because the whole city was in a panic because someone was going around saying they're going to blow up the city and all this stuff. And people just assumed that it was all Muslims. They just assumed it was Muslims that did this. And the movie ends up, I'm sorry, I got a spoiler alert. It ended up, it wasn't a Muslim at all that was going around bombing up the city. It was actually a white woman. But meanwhile, all these Muslims were being rounded up and easily, you know, it was easy to turn the public's attention to blaming these Muslims. So I remembered that. So I'm putting this together in my mind. I'm thinking, I said, I wonder if they're bringing all these Muslims in this country so that whenever we have the next 9/11, and I personally believe that it's not going to be a 9/11 singular. I think it's going to be multiple ones. I think this go around, it's going to be multiple ones. This is my personal belief. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm just telling you based off of what they're saying. And I can get into details on that on another video, but I believe it's going to be multiple ones. But let's just play it out. If something were to happen, who's the first group you think they're going to blame? It's going to be Muslims. It's going to be Muslims. They're going to be the first people they're going to blame. Don't believe me? You remember this thing that took place in, Washington, D.C. recently, this shooting? These two American soldiers, what were they? National Guardsmen. One female, the other male. I think the female died. The male, I think he's going to survive. And the guy that just happened to shoot them, he was from Afghanistan or something like that. And surprise, surprise, guess what? He used to work under the CIA. They found this out real quick. These internet sleuths don't be playing, bruh. This guy he actually worked with a team, a CIA team, I think in Afghanistan somewhere. How the heck did he end up here in the United States? You can't even fart in Washington, D.C. unless they're recording it. But somehow he was able to make it in Washington, D.C. with a whole gun and take these people out. I don't know if you guys followed that story, but what was interesting is that this individual, and then they found out, oh yeah, he's a Muslim guy. And of course he had to do the Allah Akbar before he shot these people. Of course you got to throw that in. And I don't know if you guys followed that story, but I would encourage you to go back there because they said that it was hours before this thing took place. If you go to Google Trends, you can see what people are searching for. And what they notice is that hours before, I don't know if it was hours or days before this incident took place, somebody had already been searching this dude's name. Just randomly, someone was searching his name, and then someone was searching this woman's name, I think too, the one that died. The world's a stage, y'all. And I'm telling you, what I truly believe, the reason why they're bringing in all of these Muslims is a setup. This is my personal belief, because when the next 9/11 happens, it's going to be that much easier for them to try to turn the American public against these Muslim communities. So I'm just sharing. This is my speculation based off of things that I'm seeing that's actually happening. And I'm just sharing this with you so that you can be thinking ahead, so that when this stuff does happen, you don't fall with the whole stuff. You know what I mean? That you realize, oh, I see what's going on here. They want Christians, and I'll tell you, these rabbis say this over and over again. They want Christians fighting against Muslims. They want Muslims fighting against Christians. They want to, and they have been using black people to, quote unquote, corrupt Western culture. They've been using this stuff. So, like I said, I'm going to be here and I'm going to continue to tell the truth. Why? Because that's my role. That is my purpose here in this timeline right now, is to tell you the truth and to tell black folks, hey, listen, hey, keep your eyes open, keep your eyes peeled, and it's time for you to wake up. That is my role, and that is my purpose here. I am settled, completely settled with that, and I'm going to continue to do it. And when I stop, that means it's time for me to stop. But until then, I'm going to continue to tell you the truth. Folks, I hope you got something out of this broadcast tonight. I know there's a lot of information, but my hope is that you really take the time and process this stuff, okay? And we have to, particularly as black folks, we got to learn, we got to pull away, we got to start detaching ourselves from this matrix system. And I've already told you what runs this matrix system. The operating system of this matrix system is Judaism. Okay? So we're going to tell you the truth here. All right? So that's it. But we're going to be smart too in how we communicate and how we talk. Not everybody's going to make it. Not everybody's going to make it. Some people, they're content with being in their dumb position. They're content with being ignorant. They're content with still fighting for something that's not theirs. You got Negroes out here still talking about, don't you know that, last thing, Maimonides, right? The guy that said what he did, and this other dude, this chief rabbi that both get called black people monkeys and apes. Don't you know that both of them were Sephardic Jews? Both of them are Sephardic Jews. And don't you know that you got some crazy behind Hebrew Israelites out here that are pounding their chest saying that they are proud that they are descendant of Sephardic Jews? They said they're proud. They said, we were the original, we was the Sephardic Jews. Yeah, this is what they're saying about black folks. It don't take that long to look this stuff up. I was bringing this stuff up years ago, and they were attacking me over it. Anyway, truth always comes out in the end. So thank you so much for tuning in to this broadcast. Really appreciate that. Remember, we're still running up that our promo over at Samba Tree, up to 30% off sale over at sambatree.com. Make sure you check it out. Guys, listen, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and we'll probably do this again sometime over the weekend, we're going to bring in some music. You know, we're going to do our music thing the next time. Okay. Hopefully when we get back together again. Okay. Listen, you guys take care, and I'll see you again soon. Take care now.